Thank you so much, Mel. It is really a pleasure. I'm excited to see some familiar names as well as some new names. I'm glad to get to know everybody. And I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen so we can get going. But I especially want to call out in our audience Jennifer Cruz, whose name I saw pop up. The last time I actually gave this talk, Jennifer was one of my guest panelists. So I hope that she will drop some wisdom in the chat for everybody as well as we go. So yeah, we're going to talk about streamlining your communication strategy, because besides everybody usually wanting more money, we often also want more time, right? That's the number one thing I hear holding a lot of organizations back from bringing in more fundraising revenue is that they don't have enough time. So how do we do that? But before we get there, I had a lovely introduction from Mel. I won't tell you too much other than that I have been in your shoes. Besides, I've been an executive director, I've been the conference coordinator, the program director, the secret toilet fixer. And so I know how it can be to wear all the hats. But I also have owned a marketing agency. I understand how communications work. And especially one of my strong points is not just creating strategies, but creating ways of developing strategies that actually make the strategies themselves better and easier to execute and do. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today. Now, I encourage you at any point to put a question in the chat. I can't, oh, actually now I can see the Q&A. So you can put your questions in the chat or the Q&A. I'll answer them as we go, and we'll also have time at the end to answer questions. Or if there's something you want me to go deeper on, feel free to make a note of that and let me know at the end, and we'll do that. Otherwise, Kim has done the great favor to me of putting a link in the chat where you can get these slides along with some resources I've created for you. And get your fingers ready, because I'm going to have some questions for you to answer in the chat. Nothing scary, I promise. So the first thing that I want to say is that not all strategies are created equal. And I'm going to talk about 3 things as we go along today that really impact how good your strategy is. And when I say good, I'm not just talking about the results that the activities could have, but I'm also talking about your ability to execute on those activities. Because the truth is, if you don't have the time to do it or the capacity to do it, it could be the best activity in the world for someone else, and it's not going to do you any good. So let's talk about how we get into this. The first thing that you need to know, the first of the 3, is that what you organize your strategy around can really change what you decide to do in the end. So what should we organize our strategies around? So I want to know from you, these are the common ones I see. So let me know your current fundraising strategy. What is the organizing principle? Is it laid out like a calendar? Is it a set of dates around the year that you're doing? Put calendar in the chat if that's how your strategy is organized now. Yeah, I see at least one calendar. Maybe it's organized around monetary goals. We need to, yeah, go ahead, keep putting in the chat. Put calendar. I bet we have more than 2 calendars here. Calendar's really common. Monetary goals, right? We have to raise, this is the activities we're doing to raise this next 20,000 or 100,000. Campaigns, very similar concept here, right? You might have it by campaign. Ad hoc, that's okay, no problem there. Could be around your donor segment. You could have one strategy for your major donors, one strategy for everybody else. Fundraising activity type, I'm seeing a number of those in the chat, right? Your social media strategy, your email strategy, your annual campaign. Maybe you're calling that a campaign, or maybe it's your letters going out, your direct mail. Yeah, anybody organizing their strategy around the donor relationship? Anybody doing that? I know that Jennifer is. So what do all of these things, all the 6 ones that I've put up here, yes, there are 6, except for one, have something in common? And I'm going to give you the answer. I'm not going to make you guess. Next slide here. All of these, except for the donor relationship, are organized around how you work and your frame of mind and your thinking. This one, the donor relationship, is the only way of organizing your strategy that is organized specifically around your donor's experience rather than your experience. So what the first thing that I'm going to tell you is it's really important to ditch the calendar and start organizing all your activities around your donor's experience. So what does that look like? I see what somebody is an umbrella organization, so donors aren't your focus. And let me just say, for any of you who are associations or you are an umbrella organization, you can replace donor with member, corporate sponsor, any segment of human being that you interact with. What I'm about to teach you is equally true. You just replace the word donor with whoever it is that you do engage with. And if it's not money that you want them to give you, but time or expertise or attention, all of that, it works the same way because we're all human beings. And at the end of the day, the way we think and feel and react is pretty similar and doesn't change very much year after year. In fact, it hasn't changed very much in hundreds, if not thousands of years. So what does it look like, this donor relationship, right? And how can we organize a strategy around it? Well, I like to break up the relationship, the developing relationship, into these 6 stages. First, a donor or whoever it is that we're building a relationship with has to know that we exist, right? When we meet somebody in person, they know we exist because we're right there in front of our face. But on the internet, it might take a bit to know that we exist. The next thing that person who knows we exist needs to do is trust that you're a safe organization to talk to. You're legitimate. There's real people. You're not a scammer. And once somebody trusts that you're safe to talk to, then they're ready to consider even liking you a little. Maybe, oh, wow, I'm really interested in their mission. Or, wow, they have really valuable information, or I like the way they're doing things, or I like their personality. They're fun, or they're serious, or they're compassionate, whatever it is about your organization that's going to cause somebody to like you. And only once they've gone through all the way that they both trust and like you. Sometimes those happen in reverse order, but more often than not, I find people have to trust you first before they start liking you. So once they like you, then they're ready to take action. So this is probably their first donation in many cases, right? And one of the mistakes I see a lot of organizations making is they're asking people who don't yet both trust and like them to take action. And that's like if you were going on a date with somebody you just met, you met up for coffee and you asked them to marry them on that first coffee date. And not only would they probably not say yes, but they're now going to think you're kind of a weirdo and they're not really going to trust you because you broke the rules of building a relationship, which is a really important social construct for pretty much everybody in the world. Now, the job is not over once you've gotten that first donation. You now need to bring the relationship along to the point that they support you in an ongoing and recurring and hopefully increasing way. Now, once a donor is ready to support you, then they're potentially ready to go to the highest level of the relationship. Now, not every donor will go there. Not every donor is going to end up really marrying you and committing for life, but some of them will not only commit to support you, but they will go to the next level of they will be willing to promote your work to other people that they know, essentially completing this circle and making new people aware. The amazing thing, though, is when a donor promotes you and makes somebody that they know aware, their trust, that donor's trust and like rubs off on the new person. And so that person not only then becomes aware, but they start trusting and liking you a little already in one step because somebody that they trust and like recommended you. So those are what the stages of a donor relationship look like, how you grow them. And again, you can't skip steps. If you ask somebody to promote you when they haven't started supporting you, they're going to back off. So that's really important to remember here. So how do we turn this into a strategy? How do we turn this into the strategy? Well, and how you do it can make your strategy better or worse, right? How you actually look at it, how you write your strategy will make it better or worse. And the concept going on behind this is a concept from something called Kanban or Kanban, depending on how you pronounce it, it's a Japanese word. Anybody heard of Kanban before? K-A-N-B-A-N? Kanban. And the thinking, the concept behind Kanban is a simple concept of make it seen, right? To make it be seen. So how can we have our strategy reveal its secrets to us? Yes, we've got at least one Kanban person here. So this is how we do it. All I've done here is taken the stages that we were just talking about, these 6 stages, and I've turned them into columns, right? I've only turned them into columns. Everybody with me here? Say yes. If you're with me, I haven't blown your mind. I've just taken the stages, stretched them out, and put them into columns. This is really straightforward. Yes, yes, I got to yes, I'm with you, I'm with you. Okay, great. Okay, because this stuff is not rocket science because we want to make it easier, right? We're all about simplifying. So once I have my columns, I can put my various fundraising activities under each column. Now, what this tells me right now, imagine this is my strategy, and I'm going to give you on the page that I give you a link to, I'm giving you a sample worksheet so that you can start filling this out for what you're doing now, as well as a sample strategy, which I'm going to go through with you today. But for now, regardless of the activities, this tells me visually that this organization is not very efficient at fundraising. This strategy is not good. You might be saying, well, Sarah, like, how do you know it's not good? You didn't even write what the activities were. Well, I'll tell you this critical step of getting people to like you, this organization only has one activity there, which means there's almost a hole in this flow. They're putting all their energy over here, and then there's a bottleneck right here. They're not actually getting all these people through. So I would tell this organization, stop doing some of these activities and start doing some more of these activities over here. The other thing that I see, does anybody see what this last column, right? When you get those few people who will become promoters and everybody that they promote to kind of gets to jump the line to here, they have no activities here, nothing. And so they're losing out on one of their most effective and least effort consuming, time consuming, energy consuming, money consuming activities that they could be doing. They're not even doing it at all. Now I've done something else here. I've added, so we still have the journey: aware, trust, like, act, support, and promote. But I've given you a cheat sheet, right? Because what does that mean for me? What does that mean for you as you're creating these activities? Well, this is your cheat sheet, right? So how do we make people aware that our organizations exist? We promote our organizations. How do we get people to trust us? We have to nurture that trust. We have to give them information about us that lets them know that they can trust us. How do we get people to like us? Well, besides being gimmicky and funny, one of the best ways to get people to actually like you is to have a conversation. Once they're writing back, once they're having a conversation with you one way or another, whether they're responding to an email or responding to a request or actually getting on the phone with you or chatting with you online, then you know that they like you. And that's the time, your signal that they're ready to take action. So how do we really make that action moment amazing? We have to show them love. We have to, I say it just like with my kids, like, I'm going to love on you, right? Make the experience good. Tell them that, that they're important to you, and make that a really good moment. How do we get them to keep supporting us? Same activity we did to get them to trust us. We keep nurturing. And in fact, oftentimes these activities can do double duty. And finally, how do we get people to promote us? Well, we have to actually support them and make it easy for them to do that. We're going to give you some examples. So I don't want you to worry too much. I'm going to let you know exactly what those activities are going to look like. But your first step in creating this kind of strategy is to use this structure, set up these columns. I've given you a worksheet you can do it in, or you can set it up in a tool like Trello, or I like to use a tool called ZenKit. You could make columns in a spreadsheet if you need to, but I recommend, or you can do it on paper. You can do it on a big whiteboard with sticky notes, like I kind of have here, and just write down the activities you're doing and put them in the column that it belongs to, right? So if you're sending out an email newsletter, it's probably fits in this column, the nurture to support or the nurture to trust, right? And it could be the same newsletter doing double duty in both columns. So there's a good example there. If you have a donation page, like you've got a custom campaign, maybe you're using Keela, you have a donation page. Where does that page live? That page lives here. What is that experience of that page? What happens just before they get to that page? What happens just after? What happens after they make that donation? Making that experience really good is right in here. I'll give you some more examples as we go along, but that's how you get started, is taking a look. Once you put your activities in these columns, say, hey, am I lopsided like this one is? Do I have any gaps? And I'll tell you the secret, and I'll repeat this, is to work from the inside out. You kind of want to work in the middle here and move outwards. So why do we want to move outwards? And why do we want to be evenly spread across everything and not all to the left side, which is where a lot of people are? Well, I'm going to take a moment here to show you what I call magic numbers. There are 3 key levers to raising your revenue, increasing how much money you have. So give me a hell yeah, or a yes if you're not a swear person, if you want to raise more money this year than you did last year. Give me a thumbs up or a yeah or a hell yeah if you want to raise more money this year than you did last year. So I got some hand raises. Awesome. Yes, of course you do. Thank you, Montana. So here, listen up, because this is the secret to raising more money. There are 3 ways that you can raise more money. You either increase the number of donations, right? Increase the number of donors, that is. You could increase the size of the average donation, right? Get people to give you more. Or you can increase the frequency that they give to you, right? They give to you multiple times a year. And let's see what happens if we start raising these, right? So watch this. So let's say you have 500 donors and the average donation is $50. And on average, donors are giving twice a year, right? Maybe you have an annual campaign and like a Giving Tuesday thing or a summer thing, right? And so you'd raise $50,000. It's pretty simple math, 500 times 50 times 2. Now, what happens if you increase all 3 by 10%? Well, you'd actually end up with a 33% increase in revenue, right? You only raised each one by 10%. That's not very hard to do in each one, but you get this exponential increase, right? So increasing all 3 is really important. And often the mistake I see is people are trying to increase just their number of donors, but they're forgetting about increasing the average donation and increasing the frequency. But if you only increased the number of donors by 10%, then your revenue is only going to be up by 10% instead of 33%. Now watch this, where it gets really magical. Are you ready for the super magic numbers? If you were to increase, let's say you increased your donors by 50%, that's only half as many donors as you have now. So that's not crazy. It's not crazy talk. That's doable. And maybe you increase the average donation only by 25%, right? That's just a quarter more than you're doing now. And you also increased how much they give by 50%. That's just twice a year to 3 times a year, right? I think most of us could manage that. Well, your increased revenue, if you did that, would be 281%. And you would have gone from $50,000, if these were your numbers, to $140,625. So I hope you're all saying, yes, Sarah, we're going to do all 3. Can I get a yes, Sarah? Like, are you going to do all 3 from now on? You see why this is so important to increase all 3. I got a yes, Sarah. Yes, Sarah. Can I get some more yes, Sarahs? We're going to do all that. Sure. Why not? Of course. Of course. These increases, Jarina, you and I need to talk one-on-one. These may not be your exact increases, but the exponential impact will happen by focusing on increasing all 3. Now, just to drive this point home, I have now mapped those 3 areas across this donor journey that we were looking at before. So if you want to increase the number of donors, you're going to do activities in these 3 columns, right? Those are the activities that are going to increase the number of donors. If you're going to increase the average donation, you need more activities in here, in these 2 columns. And if you're going to increase the frequency of each donor that each donor is giving on average, you're going to focus on these 2 columns. So you can say, wow, like we're good at adding donors, but we're not good at these 2 things. Okay, focus over here. So this shows you now what kinds of activities you need to do to increase across all 3. So after today's talk, when you get the worksheet or set up a ZenKit or Trello board or any kind of tool that does Kanban boards, you can Google that. What I want you to do is look at how good you are increasing the number of donors, how good are you increasing the average donation, how good are you at increasing the frequency of donations, and then look at how your activities look like right now spread across these boards. And I bet you're going to have an aha moment. I bet you're going to say, man, we really have struggled increasing the average donation. And guess what? Our activities here are either non-existent, minimal, or they're not really good because we didn't really put a lot of energy into them. So let's talk about the next thing that I know about building strategies. Communication strategies are so tricky because they're actually 2 or even more strategies nested together. They're 2 strategies at the same time. And so we might end up building one or the other, but we need to be building both. So what do I mean here? We have the strategy based on goals, right? So what's a strategy at its basic level? It's some goals, some things you want to achieve, and the actions or tactics that you're taking to try to achieve those goals. That's what strategy means, right? A set of actions in pursuit of a goal. Goals and actions together make strategy. So we have one set of goals, right? We want to make donors aware. We want to make donors trust, right? These are goals. We want to make, or these are potential donors. We want potential donors to like us. We want potential donors to take action. We want these donors to be true supporters, ongoing supporters, and we want these donors to be promoting our organization. So that's one set of goals and the activities under each column. But now I've added in some rows here, right? We have this other piece of our strategy. What are we doing, right? What are we working on now? Part of our strategy is our goal is to get this done or that done, right? What are we focusing on? So we have activities that are to be done, right? The goal is not to do them yet, but to know that they're planned. We have activities that we're working on, right? Things that are in development, but they're not proven to work. We have other things that are proven to work and they're going and they're streamlined. Maybe they're even automated a little so they take up less time. And then we probably have a bunch of things that we tried and didn't work. And it's important not to forget that we've often tried a lot of things that didn't work along the way. So let's take this a step farther and look at a potential strategy. Now, I have made these examples, and there's a copy. You have these slides on the link that I gave you, as well as a download of just this page here. I have given you some examples here, but I needed it to fit on a page. And Jennifer is actually sharing for us. Jennifer Cruz, right, who has presented this talk with me and so graciously in the past shared her actual live strategy. So this is happening. The strategies, she says, in the first 3 columns are great ways to get board members active in fundraising. Yes, this is so true. And Kim's put the link to where you can find this as an individual download as well. One of the things that is so powerful about laying a strategy out in this clear way, and Jennifer has done this herself, and she says, I can share her strategy. Fantastic. If anyone would like during the Q&A time, I will pull her strategy up and we can look at it. Is you can now have a conversation around your activities with board members, with team members, bringing your whole organization and volunteers into the process of understanding which activities you need, right? Because of this Kanban idea, make it seen, right? It's much easier for anybody to see where we need more attention, which means you can now, not only is it easier for you, it's easier also because more people are helping in the right way. Does anybody have had a board who, or maybe a donor who is like full of suggestions, like, oh, maybe we should do this and maybe we should do that, but their ideas weren't really the right ideas for your organization? Anybody have that? Can I get a me if you've had that happen? And you actually just spend time kind of dancing around telling them, oh, that's not really what what we need to be focusing on right now. Yeah, I've got at least one me. I bet there's some other me's hiding in there. This is one of the ways to tackle that issue, because you can say, well, let's pull out the strategy and see where your idea fits in, right? Or before they even give you the idea, go say, hey, will you help me come up for some ideas? I'm kind of weak in this, support donors to get them to help promote us. Do you have any ideas for that? Right. And so you can channel those discussions, or you can say, wow, your idea is awesome. It fits in here, but we have so many promotion activities. And our problem is we don't have enough conversation activities. So maybe we can put your idea in this column for the future, but maybe you can help us come up with some things to do in here. Right. So this can facilitate a conversation. So let's get into some of these examples here. And what have I done here? Rather than have rows, I've actually color coded them, and I've got a little key up here. So these turquoise ones are to be done, right? So this organization, a great example of an awareness promoting to create awareness activity might be participating in community events. Could be, does anybody do that? Can I get an events in the chat if that's one of the ways you make your people aware that your organization exists? You could have a PSA, a local venue, a sign, or a grocery store checkout thing that lets people know you're there. Remember now, if you have a give a donation, that's not really an action. They're just kind of doing it in the moment. They're still at the beginning here. They're becoming aware that you exist at that checkout, right? You show up in key search results, right? Google, SEO, that's what this stuff is about. Maybe you get referrals from your donors. That's really the best way. The more you get referrals from your donors, meaning they're coming from this column, the easier and easier your work becomes, because your donors start doing the fundraising for you. You could have media appearances. This is a fabulous way, right? Everybody's nonprofit has great stories to tell. And if you can get in the media, that's going to let a lot of people know who you are. How do we build people's trust, right? How do we nurture people's trust? Well, having a professional online presence is really important. People are going to check you out. And if you look like you're not a legitimate organization, that's going to send a red flag. I'll tell you a story. I'm in the process of potentially adopting a dog. And a lot of I've gone to Pet Finder, and I know that there are some dog adoption organizations that aren't legitimate, and some are. And a lot of them are really small. And there's a lot of pet rescues that are literally, one who was in contact with me today say, oh, just email us, something pet something at AOL. Now, any legitimate nonprofit can have a free Google account or Microsoft account and have a very cheap or free URL for their organization. So whatever their organization's website is at, they should be able to have their email at that same URL. So if you have an organization that's using an AOL email address, my red flags are going up. I'm not sure that this is a legitimate organization. So having those things in place is really important. Other types of trust building posts are, you could have weekly good news posts about what you're doing, the work you're doing, right? Share, be transparent, tell success stories. That's going to let people know, oh, wow, results are happening for other people. Anything that we would call social proof, other people saying that they had a good experience with you, whether they're a donor or a participant in your programs. How do we get people to like us? Let's talk about this column. This is one of the most important columns and where I see a lot of work to be done. So there's a good chance, if you're listening right now, you've got work to do in this column. You want to have conversations, right? This is actually when we talk about galas, right? Which are not a very effective, they're a very expensive way to fundraise, but they're a very effective way to hold conversations, right? And to build trust, right? Anything we do in person builds trust. So as you think about bringing your gala back, if you're bringing your gala back, and it might not make sense to bring your gala back, but if it does, I'd like you to really frame it in terms of where does it primarily sit in this journey? What is it best for? And how can you change it or customize it for that? So if it's really about facilitating conversations, maybe you don't have a dinner, right? Maybe you can really cut your costs and actually dramatically increase its effectiveness. And then think about, well, what are we doing before that nurtures people to come? And what are we doing after that, once we had this conversation, that is getting them to give? What's happening after the event itself? Another way that I love to get conversations is through surveys. And I don't know why nonprofits aren't doing this more. Survey your donors. What's the number one reason why they give to your organization, right? That's a great question to ask donors. And any donors that answer, one, they might tell you something really good, but just the fact that they filled out your survey is an act of conversation. And it means that those people who filled out your survey, regardless of what they said, they're ready to take action. Or if you did it as a nurturing activity, they're probably ready to give more money, or give more frequently, or ideally both. How do we make your love on them to act great? Well, you've got to optimize your donation pages. This is really important. And have custom donation pages and talk to your donors. Have a follow-up call or a pre-call, right? Call your donors, love on them, and see if they'll take action with you. Make sure that their scheduling experience, if they're scheduling a call with you, is a great experience and aligned with what your organization is about. Supporting, getting your donors to be your supporters, keeping them, this is less expensive. That's why it's so important, because oftentimes the same nurturing activities you're going to do over here are going to happen over here. And I see a question here. I'll pause to answer it. What do I mean by custom donation pages? What I mean is, you might have your general donation page that people click on the donate button. Maybe it's on your home page and they go to that. But let's say it's now you're talking about a specific story. Let's say you help homeless people and you're going to tell a story about how you helped Jim, who is an alcoholic, get sober and find permanent housing, right? When you do tell that story, and maybe you told it in an email and you told it in some social posts, well, I want the link to donate, help people like Jim to go to a donation page that you built just to match that story. Retell a little bit of Jim's story. It's designed so they have this really consistent experience. So you might have a whole bunch of donation pages. In marketing terms, we call these landing pages, right? Or they might be a page just before you get to the actual form. That's what I mean by custom donation pages. Is it a little bit of work? Yeah. And does it take a little bit of time to get used to building these? But once you get used to it, and once you have a bunch of your own templates, you can just copy these and do them again and again, it will get easy. So yes, question is about GuideStar. So, there are lots of equivalents to GuideStar in different countries. So I don't know specifically, it says you can't list Canadian provinces. I know that there are various lists that vet. So, right, just having anybody who will give you a badge of security to put on your website is great. Even if it's just the credit card processing company's badge, it says, oh, this is legit. That's good. And in fact, having a custom, Google has vetted you. If you got a Google account for nonprofits, they vetted you. So anything that shows that other people have vetted you and trust you is what will work here. That's the important part. So let's talk about supporting your donors to promote, right? Because this is where a lot of organizations aren't doing very much. Weekly good news email, right? Give them the same kind of good news that they can pass on, make it easy to share. You want them to have something to talk about with their friends, right? And if you haven't told them a story, they can't repeat the story to their friends. Teach them how to hold a fundraiser, right? Teach them. We have Facebook birthday fundraisers. Facebook's doing half the job for you, but maybe make an instructional video that shows your donors how to set up their birthday fundraiser for you and what language they should use. Give them something they can copy and paste and put in there so that it's not the default Facebook language. Or maybe you set up the language on your page so that the default language is perfect and it makes it even easier. Just click. So do things like that. But remember, when your donor does a Facebook fundraiser for you, the people who give are not your donors. They're your donors' donors, right? They're still in this awareness phase with a little bit of trust and because your donor recommended you. But don't think that those people are here. They are not. They're somewhere over here. Another way, this is where swag comes in, right? No one's gonna, make their money selling t-shirts, but swag, whether it's t-shirts, hats, I love, bumper stickers are still a thing, bookmarks, bandanas. Don't underestimate the bandana because they're very inexpensive to create, but worn boldly on heads often or used in different ways, and they're gender neutral and they're very useful. So things like that makes it easy for them to show their love for your organization to other people. And probably one of the most powerful things you can do, yes, masks, right? Absolutely. As long as we have masks. And remember, what column does the mask go in? It is a support your donors to promote, right? So it's essentially an awareness activity. Great. And we're seeing Kimberly has posted in the chat a donation page checklist for optimizing your donation page, right? So use that to help you optimize your donation page so that the giving experience is good. I'll tell you, one of the worst things that still exists is after you click to donate, instead of just processing the donation, a warning sign comes up and says, are you sure? And let me tell you, when my mother, who's in her late 70s, sees an "are you sure" message, she goes, no, I'm not not sure. I'm never sure about the internet. And she could go away right there when she was all ready to give, because she wouldn't have clicked the button if she wasn't sure. So back to support in our last column here, one of the best things you can do to support some of your donors who really want to promote your organization is to create a Giving Friends committee. That is where you put some of your best, most proactive donors so that they can work together to bring other people into the fold, hold matching gift opportunities. This will be one of your most powerful fundraising tools once you have built this. It is really empowering your donors to do even more. Let's move on. So, that's my last slide here. I didn't have an ending slide for you. So what I will say is your next steps now are to make this column for yourself. Put these columns, whatever it's a digital tool, whiteboard, on a piece of paper, and put your activities in here. So I'm going to take some time to answer some questions, go deeper. I will pull up Jennifer's strategy if anybody wants to see one of these strategies live. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a moment, take some questions. Let me know where you want to go deeper. And I will pull up this live strategy so you can see it. Just give me one moment to pull it up. Great. I see a yes, please on the strategy, and any questions you have, put them either in the chat or the Q&A. Here we go. Jennifer's strategy's coming up. And do we have any questions? Mel, are you seeing any questions?
Hi, yeah. First of all, thank you so much. That was honestly so great. I learned a lot. I didn't know about that. If you know, increase 10% of those 3 that you mentioned, it increases by 33%. That's actually amazing. And all the more reason to do all that, to increase all that. So thanks for that.
Yeah.
I actually don't see any questions coming in, which means, you know, it's not always a bad thing. It means that you did your job and you explained super thoroughly. But I know a lot of people are probably curious to see Jennifer's strategies. So hopefully some questions come in while you get that up.
Great. I am getting it up. Oops, I'm pulling it up now. Just taking a moment. I have a lot of strategies. So let's see, where are we? Desert Sounds. Okay. And here it is. Okay, let me share my screen again. Oh, thank you, Cindy. I appreciate the compliment. Okay, so here is Jennifer Cruz, who is the fantastic executive director of Desert Sounds. And what you need to know is that Desert Sounds is not a large organization. Jennifer is the main employee there, and it's mostly volunteer run. So I don't want you to look at this and go, oh my God, like there's so much stuff here. I could never do that in my organization. And just to give you a little background, Desert Sounds is based in Arizona, and they run music programs for kids and to really empower them to become leaders in their own lives, for their own lives, through music and community. So here we have, this is a tool called ZenKit, zenkit.com. If you want to use it, you can use the free version. We're looking at the free version right now. And Jennifer has shared that using this strategy model, they are up 70% for individual donations compared to last year, 70%, right? So, and that is using this to come up with better ideas, better ways to focus their activities with more intention and really get things going in the right areas. So ZenKit automatically puts in a column for anything that isn't actively in one of these right now. So we have this activity that isn't being done anymore, and it's over here. But otherwise, just to tune you into what we're looking at here. Here's the promote to know column, the nurture to trust, the converse to like, the love to act, the nurture to support, and here's the supporting to promoting. And we've used some tags in here to kind of color code what's working. Now, Jennifer has taken my leverage donor strategy masterclass, where I teach even more tricks on how to refine and think about your strategy. So there's some extra labels in here because of that. But you can see here the active that we talked about, the TBD. So I'll just share a couple of highlights from Jennifer's strategy. I'm just going to open this box so everybody can see it better. She has really been working on her e-newsletter, and even going so far as to donate to another organization that is known for having really successful newsletters, so that she could see their newsletter and get inspiration. So you could do that too, or you could even donate to Desert Sounds and see what she's doing to get her newsletter. So this is, something that she's really working on now to make an amazing newsletter. And, the thing about newsletters is they don't have to be fancy things like website. In fact, they often perform really well if they're email based, looking more like a plain email, right? Because we like to get regular emails from our friends more than we like to get solicitations from businesses. This could be a print newsletter, right? Print is not dead. In fact, print isn't used as much. So this is a great way, right? If you send someone mail, they're definitely going to trust you. And they're probably going to like you if they find the information valuable. How do we make information valuable to people? Make it be what they care about, not what you care about, right? So your newsletter should not be, we did this and we did that and we did this. It should either be things talking about your donor, right? Using the word you is really helpful, but talking about the results that you're getting, the impact that you're making. Tell the before and after story if you can in your newsletter. And you're the work of the middle, but that's your work. Your donor's work is to get that, take the before and turn it into the after using their money through you. So give them that before and the after story in your newsletters if you can. So here I'll leave this up so everybody can read, and I'll see if I see another question coming into the Q&A. Oh, that was Jennifer's. Great.
We do have a question from Michelle. Often would you revisit a strategy like this? Is it annually, quarterly? What's the typical?
Yeah. So pretty much the more, the better. Most of the folks who work with me end up learning the impact method, which I could tell you about at a later time. But in the impact method, we review our highest level strategies every 2 months. And so we would look at your overall donor strategy at least every 2 months. But then as far as working on, like, where are we in developing this? Is this working? Is this not working? We'd be looking at it every 2 weeks, that the specific things we're doing, right? So it's great to say have an optimized donation page, but then somebody actually has to build the first version and use the checklist that you guys have provided, and then test it and see how it works, and then maybe make some changes, right? So that's a big project in itself in some ways. So checking in on how's that going, and is it working, and did we get it right yet? That's something we'd be looking at every 2 weeks.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Any other questions or things people would like to see more closely?
I don't know.
All right.
I don't see any in there.
Yeah, I would love to share, Jennifer has some nice things in her love to act column. These amplify what works. These are things she's found really work well. People who donate an instrument, right? Giving money isn't the only way to donate to Desert Sounds. People can donate an instrument. People can also volunteer, right? So they're working on activities to scale that up and making sure. So when we talk about donation frequency, maybe the first gift is money and the second gift is something in kind that you really need or can easily turn into money. And that's another way to increase frequency. A gala survey they're testing. That's really interesting. I'm excited to hear it at the 48-hour mark. So I'm guessing that that's 48 hours after the gala, surveying people. That's a great way to continue that conversation, or maybe turn people who were conversing at the gala into giving if they didn't give at the gala. That's great. Excellent. Okay.
All right. So I guess we'll end it there if there's no more questions, everyone. I just wanted to thank you again, Sarah, for that wonderful presentation. That was honestly so great. And I feel like I learned so much, and I'm not even fundraising, so I can't even imagine what that does to a fundraiser. So thank you so much.